What's up, you guys? Hope you've been well. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through my personal AI workflow, and this is by far the easiest, no-brainer, most validated, dare I say, laziest workflow I've discovered after using GPTs, using projects, programming AI agents, so on and so forth. And frankly, it kind of boggles my mind why more people aren't talking about this. Either they've built the agents that they want to sell you or the program they want, I don't know. But this is what's easy, super, extremely validated, so like it works every single time you do it. Let's rock and roll. Let's talk about who this is for and who this is not for. This is not for you if you're looking for a heavy-duty, complex NAM style workflow that you spend 25 hours making, interconnecting lots of This is for the average person who doesn't have a lot of time to sit around programming and reprogramming AI. They want to do something that, you know, they do once, and then it's a once and done, and it serves them well. This is not for you if you're looking for AI to give you the magic answer, because over here, we're going to be using AI as a thinking partner, a grunt, and an analyst. But we're going to get it to work off of our real stuff. So we're going to use real people, real conversations, real problems converted into real content, which is like validated, except the doing is going to be done by AI. We're just going to instruct it as to what to do. The third person this is not for is if you're a complete beginner in the online consulting, offer owner, coaching space, meaning you've never worked with anyone ever before, and you have no clue what an ideal client looks like or talks like or what their problems are. The only things you've seen are online on Perplexity or Google, so on and so forth. So with that said, let me give you a little bit of context. I run a coaching call, a weekly coaching call, and one of my clients asked me a question about pigeonholing herself. She's a transformational coach, and she struggles with worrying that she might pigeonhole herself. And so in response to that, as a reactive measure, she goes too broad, and so she has trouble with her messaging landing. Now, I know for a fact that this happens to be a problem a lot of transformational coaches struggle with. But we're not depending on my knowledge. We're going to jump into the recording and we're going to look up exactly what she said. So with that said, everything starts at the source. In my case, it's going to be the coaching call from Tuesday. I'm going to jump into Fathom, which is what I use to record my calls. You can use whatever you use to transcribe your coaching calls, or you can use notes if you take them. So we're in Fathom. This is August 19th, 2025. I'm just going to ask it a simple question, and I'm going to be like, tell me the part about the call where talks about pigeonholing herself and is worried of niching down. There we go. So we've got, she was discussing how she was worried about pigeonholing herself by speaking to a specific type of client, hiring professional. I advised her against worrying about pigeonholing. Instead recommended she focus. So we're going to take all of this. Instead, recommended she focus on speaking on specific type or client repeatedly until she's able to get them to work with her. I emphasize the importance of being very specific in describing the client's behaviors and lifestyle rather than just using broad labels like entrepreneur, etc., etc. So the gist was to essentially stop using labels to describe people, because an OnlyFans model calls themselves an entrepreneur, and so does a Fortune 500 CEO. But only one of them is going to work with you. And so instead of worrying about labels, talk about actions and behaviors. So I gave her examples of how earlier in leadership positions, for me, the greatest burden would be quarterly board meetings. The greatest burden would be waking up in the morning and checking my KPIs on email before breakfast. So tactical, kinetic actions that people take. Now, we take this and we jump into our GPT of choice. Now, I've created agents. I've created projects. If you're using Claude, you can use projects. If you're using ChatGPT, or well, Grok has projects as well now. It doesn't really matter what LLM you use the one that you're most comfortable with. I wouldn't recommend, I don't know much about Google Gemini. I always stay away from Gemini because Gemini is incredible at context, meaning the amount that it can retain, but it's horrible at creative writing. Meaning, it's very good at writing creatively as itself, but not as you. In my case, I use AI to represent me, so I am source. And so for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be using ChatGPT 05. Most people don't like it, but I think it's one of the best. Only because I've trained it so heavily on me and my data and everything. I think this is a general mistake that people make. They expect the model to be super smart and just to figure out what they want it to do. I do the opposite. I just feed it a lot of stuff that I've wanted to recreate and do and the way I've wanted to think. And so it spits out what I want. And I'll give you all those files first. So this is my GPT. This is a project. in ChatGPT. The project, it's called Facebook Content. Now, as you can see, I've had my fair share of GPTs. A lot of these are available to my clients. Content Companion helps them write better. Carousel Crafter is obviously for carousels. Email Engine, magnetic messaging helps people develop messaging, so on and so forth. Now, you might not want to build out a custom GPT because a custom GPT is still a little more technical and a little more complicated than a project. Is it better? Yes, it is. But not everyone wants to do that. And quite frankly, even though I have God knows how many GPTs available for myself, for my clients, this is doable with a project. Like for me, the fastest thing is a project with custom instructions and custom data. That's where the magic happens. And so I'm going to share with you all the data in my custom project, as well as how the project is built and why it spits out something that's so incredible. We have a project called Facebook Content, and we have custom instructions as well as files. And as you can see, I have 8 files. So let me open these up in Google Docs. Now, the first file we have is a content specifics reference list. We start with numbers and timeframes. So this is all from content of mine. Now, I made a piece of content that said I've spent 547 days creating content that flopped before cracking the code. There was another piece of content I made, which is 1,172 hours on sales calls. Now, I've done more than that. And this is why a document like this is so helpful for me, because I take a lot of pride in the specificity in my content. So if I'm saying 1,172, I actually went to my sales call log and I calculated the number of hours. And the reason I tell my GPT to remember this is because I can now sync it with the additional calls that I've had since I made this piece of content. And the next time I want to do it, it'll give me an updated number. So when it comes to references and numbers and specifics, this is a lifesaver, because if you're anything like me and you are particular about the numbers you quote, I think in the business coaching niche, you should be particular about the numbers you quote, the people you've worked with, the amount of money you've helped them make, the amount of times you've done something, so on and so forth. And if you don't care about numbers, then this is irrelevant for you, but it'll still be relevant for you from an IP, branding, name of your programs and products and services point of view. So let's continue. The next thing is my IP. So I create the Bold Brand Blueprint, which is the core system that helps people hit 30 to 50K months. I've got the Perfect Prospect Path, which is our lead generation method. It attracts pre-sold people. We've got the Offer Alchemy system that designs offers for us. We've got the 7 levels of intimacy DM framework, the 3R persuasion framework, and so on and so forth. All of my IP, you will have your own, so on and so forth. Now, the next thing I have is client results and wins. And this one's shorter because I made it a long time ago. But one of the hacks for this, and I'll show you that list as well, is I took all the, 250, 300-ish screenshots that I posted in my stories of different clients sending me different results. I fed it, and Grok was really good at that. I fed it into Grok. GPT will do it for you too. And I told it to turn that into a table. So let's say I make a piece of content saying, you want to make $24,000 a month. I can tell GPT, hey, pull out a screenshot of a client whom I helped make $24,000 in a month. It'll give me the name, it'll give me the date, it'll give me the screenshot. And it's just incredible for someone like me who tends to forget the results I deliver to people. It's just game changing. So I'll show you that as well. But let's go with this one, because this is the one that's fed into the GPT for now. It's got the names of my clients. Obviously, these have been blurred. It's got human moments that connect. These are my moments. So my fingers used to bleed from psoriasis. That's why I left corporate. I had restarted smoking under stress. Like I said, 547 days of failing. It's got my quirks, my style. This is not so relevant because we're going to get more of this in the style guide. And this is quite frankly not so present. And then we've got the bonuses that people get when they join my program. So they get the 15 AI agents. They've got the one-page operating system. They've got the 150K month offer system. We clone their voice, so on and so forth. But that's what the content specifics reference list looks like. Now, let's move to the next one. The next one is the content creation guidelines. Now, these are my guidelines. Now, every creator has their own way of creating content. I have mine that I teach my clients. And therefore, I need to teach my GPT the same guidelines that I use for creating content. So a quick look at my guidelines is, let's jump in. We use the law of entanglement. If your client has experienced something, so will your prospect. The law of the one and the many. When you speak to one person, many pay attention. This is a copywriting law. Like, always try and speak to one person. One of the big mistakes people make is try to speak to too many people. The show don't tell rule. This is a hard and fast rule I have. You have to show instead of telling. So lots of people will say things I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. So wherever you can, show, don't tell. Client results, pictures, text. 1.8 seconds to get attention. Do I sound like a blog? Would I watch? This is my favorite question. Would I watch, read my own content? Now, the reason this is important is because I teach my people that one of the biggest problems of social media is that everyone looks the same. Everyone's copying their favorite influencer, and therefore everyone looks like a copy, sounds like a copy, uses the same effects, so on and so forth. The sea of sameness. Now, one of the best ways to think about this as a framework is, would I like to consume my own content? Because if you're anything like me, you belong to the school of thought that we attract a version of who we are. And if we attract a version of who we are needs to like the content we're putting out. So my rule is, would I like to consume my own content? And so if I'm creating shit content, that's a personal check for myself and for my clients to make sure we don't make that mistake. The next thing is things about copy. The title, first line is critical. Obviously, so not enough people spend time on the titles. Be specific, use kinetics, avoid buzzwords, blah, blah, blah. Text placement, avoid fatigue. I use Hemingway. We're going to walk through that. Pictures. Essentially all the rules that we follow for content creation. Then I have a list of words to avoid. This is a list I've created over the years. This is not really something that I created. This is me being part of lots of communities and all the communities getting together to collate a list. And therefore, this is, I don't know how many words, but this is the sort of words that AI loves to use. And again, this is one of those things where it's like when someone does it, it's like a dead giveaway. So I'll give you an example. I used to use hyphens in my copy. It's one of the things that I love doing because it's one of my favorite ways of breaking up a sentence. Now, because AI is notorious for doing it, I've had to change my writing style to avoid doing something I used to naturally do because I don't want to sound like AI. And so you want to avoid all those superfluous, in fact, superfluous is probably one of those words that AI uses. This is one of those lists. You can have your own. You just want to make sure that your copy or your script doesn't sound like shitty generic AI stuff. The next thing is a detailed avatar profile. Now, I like to go very deep in my avatar. I like to know not just their fears and desires. I like to know them inside out. And so my avatar profile is very detailed in terms of not just demographics like age, gender, but also psychographics like how they grow up, what sort of trauma do they generally suffer from, because my program is both business and mindset. And I see patterns in my people. And the better you make this document, the more comprehensive you make that. Like, for the love of God, this document should not be women over 30 looking to lose weight. No, that is horrible. That's a horrible way of creating content. It becomes too generic, too vague. You probably heard the saying, the millions are in the niches, the billions are in the micro niches. And so some people think I'm a micro niche guy. I like to know my avatar so well, not because I'm going to create a micro niche, but because we're going to use micro languaging to describe that person. So imagine women over 30 looking to lose weight versus women over 30 looking to lose the last 5 pounds. Now, that's a very specific woman. Very specific. She's looking to lose the last 5 pounds. She's either an actress or a model or an athlete. She's got an event coming up. Maybe she has a wedding coming up. And there's that last 5 pounds of stubborn weight that she's trying to lose. Or women over 30 looking to lose their first 100 pounds. First 100, meaning they have 100 to lose. Meaning they're nowhere near the first example I gave you. They're a beginner. They'll probably need more diet, more guidance, more hand-holding, more support. Very different. They're both women. They're both over 30. They're both looking to lose weight, but extremely different avatars, extremely different ways of looking at life, extremely different desires, extremely different fears. And that's why I think this document is extremely important. So let's take a look at mine. The gender, both male and female, age between 30 and 50, income, aim for financial freedom, income target of around 10,000 a month, primary role, their goals, their values, their fears, their frustrations, their needs, their challenges, their languages, not meaning whether they speak English or not, but using specific words like offers, constant viewership, trading, sales process, lead magnet retention, so on and so forth. Competition, what's the promise, what's the current situation, what's the desired situation, being overwhelmed with day-to-day tasks, having a business that runs smoothly and efficient. Now, the reason why this is in inverted commas is because this has been extracted directly from my coaching calls with my clients. And so I make it a point to update this every quarter with specific languaging, specific things they say, specific frustrations, because my clients evolve. Everyone's clients evolve as they make more money, as they get better at doing what they're doing. their requirements change and their frustrations and their challenges change as well. So not only does this help me create more things within my program, so if we're in August right now, in September, if I'm going to create an AI agent, if I know what their frustrations are, I'll make an agent specifically for that. So not just does it help from a program design point of view, but it also helps from a content creation point of view. The more comprehensive you have yours, the better it'll be for you. The next thing is the Q2 invite. So the RB Q2 invite is basically my offer doc. It can be your landing page, essentially a write-up of your offer. Q2 invite is old. This should be updated to Q3 so you can see how lazy I am. That's why this is called the lazy method. Again, this includes what they get in the offer. This includes the IP. This includes the pricing of the offer, so on and so forth, all those things. Now let's get to the fun part. The fun part is this document. Facebook posts till 9th June 25. Now I've been big on Facebook for the last couple of years, and I have been a prolific creator, and so I have a lot of content to show. And so let's take a look at what it looks like. And this is basically pretty simple. It started as top 50, then it became top 100, then it became whatever. And it's essentially a 167-page doc, which is all text, all copy, just how I write, how my style, information, so on and so forth. Is one of the reasons I don't use Claude, because Claude, there's no way in hell Claude's going to remember this. Some people will argue and they will say you shouldn't feed AI so much information, and I agree, but let's just count how many pieces of content this has, because we're almost at 167, 116. So at the moment, it's got 116 pieces of my content. Now, pros and cons. Do you need 116 pieces? No, you do not. You need between 20 to 40 of your best performing pieces. That's it. I created this as a very comprehensive doc in the beginning because I wanted to make it as robust as possible and train it on everything, because I was annoyed because AI was making shit up and not sounding like me, etc., etc. What I recommend here is using 20 to 40 of your best performing, highest performing scripts of your reels, if those reels did good, scripts of your YouTube videos, because I have all those documents, you're going to see them. Your Facebook, LinkedIn content, whatever it is. And I'll probably be making this list shorter. One of the reasons I have this list is because this list helped create the content specific reference checklist, which is an offshoot of some of the things I talk about in this. The next thing is an incredible document called Surface Signals. Surface Signals is something that a lot of people miss out on. Surface Signals is the languaging that your clients speak in. Surface Signals, so if you think about a problem as procrastination or a problem as obesity, that's the problem. Surface Signals is how people think about the problem. So the symptoms of the problem. So if someone is obese, no one goes to bed thinking, I wish I wasn't obese. An obese person would go to bed thinking, I wish breathing wasn't so hard for me. I wish my feet didn't hurt all the time from the weight. I wish I could fit into better clothes. I wish I could be more athletic. Surface signals. And so my surface signals are divided into pains and desires, and then secret pains and secret desires. And the difference between pains and secret pains is the secret pains are the things they don't tell you, but you can figure out if you work with enough of them. So for example, again, in the health and fitness niche, a desire could be to lose weight. A secret desire could be to look good naked. I've had some experience in market research. I used to work for the Nielsen company. Back then, we used certain models to figure out what was it that people weren't telling us, and they were instead giving us polite answers. You can program AI to do this. You can use your head to do this. It's kind of easy to figure out secret desires, but it's important to know those, because when you use them in content, and this is why I talk about validated content, when you use them in content, there is no way people can not respond to you. They have to. They're compelled to. They want to, because it's like you talk about what's in their head. Let's keep rocking. The last thing is 1000 viral hooks. This is an easy document. You can have, essentially what I did was I took my highest performing content. I took other things that I drew inspiration from, and I created a file. There's not 1000 hooks. It's probably a lot less because a lot of them are irrelevant for me, but my hooks trained in my style on my GPT. You can have your hooks. As we all know, and I'm sure if you're anything like me, you understand the importance of a good hook. If you write on Facebook or LinkedIn, it's a title. If you record YouTube videos, it's the first thing you say. If you make reels or shorts, again, it's the first thing you say. Visual hook, spoken hook, said hook, written hook, so on and so forth. Now, arguably one of the most important things is prompt engineering, and you will see people selling prompts. You will see people go on and on about prompts, and I kind of agree. Prompt engineering is very important, But what's more important than prompt engineering, or as equally important as prompt engineering, is telling the prompt what to reference. So now that I've shown you the 8 files that we're referencing, let's take a look at the prompt. And the secret thing that I do in prompts that I've never seen anyone do ever. I don't know why people don't do this. The most important thing, I think, by far in my prompt is, you've probably seen you are an AI model acting as blah, 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 blah. But what you haven't seen as a second brain of me, world-class copywriter, and me designed to create content optimized for Facebook. Your role is to blah, blah. And this is, guys, I cannot stress the importance of this. This is why I've seen people turn, twist, contort, distort themselves into trying to get their AI to sound human. I've seen people telling their AI to make spelling mistakes so it sounds humans. There's an easier way. I'm not going to tell my AI to make spelling mistakes because I don't make spelling mistakes. Annoy me. I spent 20 years in brand. I do not want to be making spelling mistakes. Hyphen is where I stop changing my copy. So instead of telling AI to humanize content and blah, 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 tell it to be you and feed it tons and tons of what you sound like. But I have something called a style guide. If you look at my other AI tutorials, you can develop your own style guide. And then you don't need to worry about AI sounding like AI ever again. And so for me, for all the, except for my clients, the stuff that I make for clients is neutral. So it goes based off of their styles and what they feed it. But for all my stuff, for all content, whatever, the first instruction I give it is, you're me. You're a version of me. And the rest is actually quite easy. Your role is to transform into a compelling piece of content from the concept I share, blah, 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 blah. Use my as you can see, use my writing style, my creation guidelines, my social media tone, my client avatar, mine. The first line is design, blah, 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 blah. And then obviously I tell it, use the viral hooks, align with, again, reflect my style, be engaging, understand the concept, etc., etc. But I think the most important thing is who to be and what to reference. Now let me show you the actual conversation I had. And so I tell it, I want to write a short Facebook post, 150, 250, about the fact that a lot of coaches that I work with are too afraid of pigeonholing themselves. One of my clients the other day wanted to work in relationships, this is what I coached her on. Instead, using labels, she was talking about if you're in the top 2% of the population of America. I told her that the top 2% of the population of America don't know they're in the top 2% of earners in the population. So don't call them top 2%, call them, describe their actions. So I told it what I do. The message I'm giving is, instead of speaking to labels, start speaking to actions. Now I want you to start with giving me 5 to 10 hooks. This is something I always do. Every time I'm creating a piece of content, I first figure out the title and the hook, and then we make the story after that. Let's start with hooks, and it gave me a bunch of hooks. Now notice the magic. It referenced the detailed avatar profile, it referenced the surface signal doc, and it referenced my content laws. And then it gave me the hooks. Your niche is too broad, your labels are too lazy. Kind of nice, kind of arrogant. Entrepreneur is the most useless word in marketing. Yes, even OnlyFans models call themselves that. The reason your niche doesn't work, you're speaking to labels. Kind of nice. Then I say, I like number 1 because it contains the keyword niche. Again, it's relevant to my audience. Isn't too broad. Something a lot of people struggle with. Your labels are like that. Can we put it in brackets? And so then I go back and forth. I do a little bit of back and forth with ChatGPT in finalizing the hook, and then it starts writing copy. And then obviously we write copy. I go back and forth on refining copy. The hack I have for copy is I always use the Hemingway app. And so what I'll do is I'll do a split window between Hemingway and ChatGPT, and I'll keep pasting. My preference for Hemingway is grade 5 or below. I really strongly believe in the fact that a smart person can express themselves simply, but a simple person will try and express themselves smartly and therefore lose audience. So the smarter you are, the better it is to sort of frame yourself and phrase yourself 5th grader or below. This is one of the first things one of my first coaches taught me, because I was fresh out of corporate and I was throwing around a lot of corporate jargon that I thought made me sound cool, or I was just trained on doing that for 20 years. But people were losing me. People weren't like, because when we use complicated words, no one's going to raise their hand and be like, what do you mean by that word? They're just going to leave. And so Hemingway is my go-to of choice. And essentially, pretty simply, I will just literally pick something from here, copy. So this is the copy we had. Pick something from here, copy, paste, and we'll go like that. Now, what is important here? What's important here is that I don't do what a lot of people do, which is I don't just copy everything GPT gives me. I like the OnlyFans example, and I wanted another one like that, but I couldn't think of one like that. So I did a little bit of back and forth because it was forcing me to write long things. So I did a little bit of back and forth on the copy. The other thing I like doing is I like giving examples. So you've probably seen messaging and marketing of two types. One is the tease marketing, which teases at the problem, teases at the solution and leaves. My style is more I hint or I talk about the problem more directly, and then I give examples of what the solution looks like, because telling someone to speak to your audience in actions is easy to say, but they have no clue what that looks like. So I spend a little bit of time with ChatGPT, my boy, and I tell it to give me examples of what that looks like, and I had to feed it examples, and eventually we arrived to this copy where we break down the labels into two things. One is a pretender, meaning someone who borrows the labels. So if you go to Instagram right now and you search for entrepreneur, you'll find anyone and everyone under the sun as an entrepreneur. Are they all entrepreneurs? No. Some of them are pretending to be entrepreneurs, which is where the OnlyFans example, and obviously that's a discussion for, I don't want to be part of that discussion, but it's like they're not going to work with you, so it's irrelevant. The other people are hopefuls. These are people who would one day like to be an entrepreneur. They're aspiring to be entrepreneurs. And so that's the wrong way. The right way, describe people. And then I give examples. I talk about the fact that I teach this in magnetic marketing, relatively CTA, DM magnet, and I'll share the details. And the thing about the CTA is you always want to have a short CTA, preferably a good CTA, meaning your call to action or your keyword shouldn't be loser or fat or ugly or something like that. It should be something pleasant, and it should be ideally sort of linked to your offer. So mine's magnetic marketing, magnetic messaging. Magnet makes perfect sense. Now, let's see how it performed. Let's jump into Facebook and let me show you the cool part. Here we are in Facebook. August 20th at 21:10. The niche down rule, keeping your pipeline empty. No, it's not too broad. We talk about pretenders, nice labels, but they attract pretenders, hopefuls, blah, blah, OnlyFans models, student posting this. I give examples, later on in the day, I just finished working out. I like the visual to sort of complement the topic. So instead of a picture of me smiling, which you can get away with, I just went and I was like, no, don't do this, stop doing this, right? Now, what's the fun part? The fun part is here. It hasn't been seen by a lot of people. I would assume probably 300 to 400-ish people, which is more than enough. Okay, so 550 people have seen it, which is not bad at all, but that's not relevant. A lot of people get very fixated on the numbers, but the numbers are irrelevant. What's relevant is the people reaching out to you. And that's what I'm about to show you. So we've got one person commenting magnet, this person commented magnet, this person commented magnet. That's what we want. And so this is the proof in the pudding, meaning you take a problem, you convert that problem into a high converting piece of content using historically validated high converting content. You put it out on social media. It cannot not perform. It will perform. Now I'm going to show you the next part, which is the most mind-boggling part. And I've saved that. I'm going to do that live with you. So here's the deal. There's a bunch of people commenting magnet. Now, I have a couple of options. I can directly send them to my VSL. I can be like, hey, here's magnetic messaging. Let me know if this resonates. But what if some of them are new to my world? I want to warm them up first. I don't want to directly jump in and make them an offer. So what I've done is I've taken 200 plus of my YouTube transcripts, and I've created another project where it's trained on those transcripts. We're going to feed it the copy. We're going to ask it to tell us what asset to send them. And let's do it now. So we go here. Let's copy the whole thing. There you go. YouTube transcripts. These are transcripts from YouTube. They're Google Docs. I had my VA dump them here. If I were to show you what they look like, they're literally copy-pasted transcripts. So how to take tough decisions in life. Here's the link. There's the transcript. How to start a business and profit in 2022. I think that should be 2025. 5K to 30K, how to work less. So like these are all the topics. There's 2 of them. I think Google Docs couldn't support more than 150 or something like that. And so we have 2 of them. It's pretty simple. The cool part is this part, and this is an old conversation. Let's do a new one. So I made a piece of content where I talked about the problem that coaches have where they struggle with pigeonholing themselves into a niche. And I put that out on Facebook with a keyword, and now people have responded to me with that keyword. I want you to reference the transcripts and give me in order of priority the top 5 videos that I can send them to warm them up to me. Here's the exact piece of content that I posted. Now we give it the piece of content and let's go. So this is what it's given us. 7-figure entrepreneurs reveals his lead generation strategy, the exact roadmap, made my coaching program 268-350, how to start a business and profit, how to work less hours, how to take tough decisions in life, the logic behind. And so now we're going to jump back into Facebook and I'll show you, because this is amazing. It's real time. This person responded. And so what I usually do is I have multiple trainings and here is my opening message. Hey, name, you're doing well. This is regarding your comment magnet for magnetic messaging. Please let me know when you get this message. They complimented me on me using a framework. I didn't know what that meant. I usually ask people one of two questions. I like to lead with giving them a choice. Are you struggling with getting leads? Are you struggling with converting leads? Are you struggling with creating content? Are you struggling with getting eyeballs on content? Like every question that has to, because usually what that is indicative of is the stage that the person's at. And because of that, not only does it build a little bit of rapport, it gives me more directional input as to which video to send them. And so now it's just a matter of going to that person and let's check the DMs because I know that. There we go. Yes. Another person. Magnet. I am so good at following directions. Let's see which training we should send this person. How to take tough decisions, how to work less hours, improve your health, how to start a business, this exact roadmap, 7-figure. I think this is the best one. 7-figure entrepreneur reveals his lead gen strategy. In today's video, if you're a coach, consultant, hey, here you go. Done. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my approach, validated, high converting. In fact, to show you a fun thing that I did, I wanted to film this video yesterday, but there was construction going on. So there was a lot of banging. And instead of a video, I ended up making a reel on Instagram and on Facebook. And so now people are responding to that. And the cool part about that reel is it's being pushed to non-followers. So it's like you create a cycle where you do one thing, which is the call, you coach one person, you then convert that into content, which is the piece we made. We then converted that into short form, which is unexpected, but a pleasant byproduct of the whole process, and then long form, which is this video. And now I'm going to get back to these people with all the trainings that are relevant to them. I might even make a direct offer to some of them who I'm super warm to, and that's it. And this is the easiest way, the non-programming AI, the non-automation, the basic free LLM way that you can take a real problem, real pain, burning desire, turn it into a high converting piece of content, get people to comment on that, send them something that's perfect for them and warm them up to you, more or less on autopilot. I'm done. I'm out of here. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.